information about by visiting the website yorkroadproject.org.uk. To donate and to find out more, visit the website, or alternatively, you can find us on all social media platforms at York Road Project. Now, throughout the history, somebody that's been here for quite some time now is, of course, our Chief Executive, and I am joined now via the powers of technology so that we can find out more about York Road Project and answer your questions this evening. A reminder that if you want to get involved, then you can simply use the hashtag on social media, AskYRP. Ask YRP. That should be showing on your screens now at the bottom. If you use that, we'll pick up your questions and we'll try and get your questions answered throughout the evening. We've got lots to go through, so without further ado, let's welcome Cath to the show. Hello, Cath.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Good evening. Technology, as always, there is a slight delay in audio. We do apologise for that. It's that Cath is out in the countryside where the bumblebees are. Right, Cath, without further ado then, I suppose we should find out a little bit more about you first and then delve into the wonderful world of York Road Project. I'll hand over to you to give an introduction.
Oh, well, hello, everybody. Yep, I'm Cath Stamper and I've been Chief Exec at York Road Project for coming up 8 years. And there must be something good about the place because I have been here so long. It's the longest I've stayed in any job. So I think it's quite a record. I keep thinking, oh, you know, let's have a look at something else. And no, I love the project intensely. My background's in homelessness and I have started as an outreach worker many moons ago, and I ended up managing the outreach team in Guildford before moving over to York Road Project.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a question in, Cath, with regards to yourself then. You've been there for quite some time. Tell us, how do you switch off from the day-to-day? Because obviously there's lots going on, lots of positive action, but also some quite challenging times. What is it that you do to switch off? And of course, do you ever switch off?
I find it quite difficult. It takes some time, and my partner works in the same sector in a hostel in Guildford, so we have to have a half-hour rule. When we get home, we can talk about work for half an hour only, and anybody who mentions it after that half hour has to make the tea all evening. I keep bees, and not bumblebees. I keep honeybees, proper bees, and there I've got 3 hives in the bottom of my garden. So that's a really good way to de-stress because you cannot be a bit hectic around bees or you'll get stung. I have a motorhome who unfortunately can't go anywhere at the moment, but she's called Mavis. I have chickens, I have push bikes, and I do find it difficult because we deal with the emotions of some of the most marginalised people in our community.
Fabulous, thank you. So obviously with York Road Project then, how did it all start? How did it come about? And of course, where are we now? So kind of give us a little bit of a history behind the project that is York Road Project.
So the potted history is that it was started by people from some of the local churches in Woking back in the 90s, and they were offering soup and some companionship, but they didn't have any premises. And in 2001, Woking Borough Council gave these groups of people the night shelter in 1 York Road, hence the name, and a charity was formed. And initially just with the night shelter, it was sort of winter watch type thing, and it's grown enormously since then. So now we have got the 11-bed night shelter. We have 20 move-on beds in 5 separate properties. We have the day centre in Goldsworth Road. We have an outreach team. We have a wellbeing worker. We have a criminal justice worker. And we, in the day centre, we not only do we provide the essentials for rough sleepers, but we also deliver workshops and training.
And then workshops and training programs are are vital really for anybody that's with York Road Project, because of the skills that they could potentially pick up, but also because of the things that they have to potentially deliver whilst being with you as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is that people use their time productively, and idle hands, etc. And we have a beautiful opportunity to teach people new things, or it could be something, going back to the previous question, it could be something, an activity that is sort of de-stresses, so that they can be doing arts and crafts or photography or running the pancake races we do every year.
Press the right button. And in terms of the community, how vital is it that you kind of are part of the DNA of Woking? And it's something that we really must stress, that you are such a local charity serving local people.
Yeah, it's always been part of our strategy, really, and our ethos about being in sort of an integrated part of the community and not on the edge of it. And another strategic decision has been to focus on the people of Woking rather than a wider area. And it would be very easy to replicate our services at a wider area, but we revisit this every year in our away day, and it is always our focus is the Borough of Woking. We couldn't do any of what we do without the community, with the businesses, the individuals. Lots and lots of people make it possible.
Most definitely, yes. Throughout my time at York Road Project, there are so many familiar faces coming forward time and time again to offer their love and support for the project and what we do. So thank you from us. And of course, if you would like to help out tonight, then you can donate, and we'll be telling you about a specific campaign in a short while. Now, another question now, then obviously we have to talk about it. It's all over the news. You can't escape it because of lockdown and things. But the pandemic hit, and it hit, this person wrote, like a brick smashing through into people's living rooms. It was kind of, 1 minute it's coming, the next minute it's there, you're locked down. How did you find it at the beginning? What was your kind of reaction, your gut reaction, but then also how you had to act?
Well, we sort of saw it coming a little bit. We'd focused quite a lot on the news, etc. And when the government started having COBRA meetings at my workplace, we implemented Viper meetings where we were meeting every day trying to get things set up. So we had already implemented, even before the lockdown, the hygiene routine. None of the clients were coming into any of the buildings, nor us, without using hand sanitizer. But I must admit, it was insane, and it was like nothing I've ever known before. And one of the difficulties I found was I kept getting asked questions, and I didn't have the answers, because there were no answers, because we were in something completely new. But it was, fortunately, I've got an amazing team and members of the community, my trustees, etc. Everybody jumped in and helped, because we ended up completely relocating all of our services. So it was very intense, very stressful. And if you think about how stressful it was for us as a team, who then came home to our families and our homes, imagine how stressful it is for our clients. Just because you give somebody a bed does not resolve any of the anxiety they may be having.
Amazing, thank you. And of course, again, just to remind people, if you want to find out more about York Road Project specifically, or if you would like to donate to the campaign, then you can simply head over to yorkroadproject.org.uk and you can click the donate button at the top. And there are different ways to donate as well, and all the information on them is available on the website. So obviously the pandemic, it was a devastating time across the world, and it is still ongoing. We have to remember that. So please do stay alert and stay safe, everybody. It's always important that we focus on the greater good. So what do you think the positive impacts of COVID-19 potentially have been for York Road Project?
As always, in any sort of crisis, I think the community spirit, yes, we already get a lot of support, but one of the things we found, that because we relocated and we doubled our numbers of clients, we were going through our food at a rate of knots. And just a simple plea on social media, on the website, word of mouth, we were inundated with food. so that we could actually ensure that all those people we were supporting were fed. And I think the community, and I'm not, whilst obviously I'm biased towards Woking, I think this is what we've seen across the country. You've got people getting to know the neighbours, everybody's helping each other, and the attitude to those in need has been very positive. We often think that as a charity, homelessness is at the very bottom of the pile. And actually what we've seen now is that it's very much in people's minds, realising that where do you self-isolate if you are living in the park?
Most definitely. And thank you to everybody that got in touch and reported those that potentially were rough sleeping or experiencing homelessness. And a reminder that there is a link on our website to contact us and let us know if you do spot anybody that needs our help. The website, once again, is yorkroadproject.org.uk. Cath, obviously, that was the positives. We know that it has been a very challenging time and that a lot of us probably have a few grey hairs since the beginning, but talk us through some of those things that were challenging and kind of how you overcome those things.
I mean, I said earlier on about not knowing the answers to some of the questions I was being asked was very challenging on a personal level. In terms of as an organisation, I think the hardest thing was the changing advice from the government. You know, we'd go to bed one day thinking we knew what we were doing the next day, and actually when we woke up the next day the advice had changed. So an example was, initially it was apparently okay to put people on mattresses in the conference centre in one of their big rooms, and literally a few days later it was said no, there can be no shared sleeping arrangements. So then we moved into Woking Hotel. Then it was said we've been looking after people during the day at the Prop Day Centre. Then they said there could be no communal day centre spaces. So then we had to shut that down. And it's been the constant change. The lack of guidance and advice generally, I think, has been pretty poor for our sector. Having said that, of course, we do understand that there are probably much bigger issues going on, for instance, the care homes and trying to manage the NHS. PPE, getting that has been very problematic, but we succeeded in the end. And just trying to persuade clients as well, who, as I said earlier, this is very scary for them. So trying to persuade them to come in and trust us a bit and when the whole routine had gone completely out the window, they knew how we worked, they knew what time we were open, what time we were shut, what time dinner was. All of a sudden we were saying, come in, here's the room, stay here, and we'll get back to you as soon as I can get everybody else in. So the sort of speed in which we had to move was very unsettling for everybody concerned. And it took about 4 weeks for that to settle down.
Most definitely. And were there specific standout moments for you throughout this so far? Obviously, we have to remember that it isn't over, but what are the specific standout moments for you throughout what you've been delivering for COVID-19?
I think there's three. One I've already mentioned, which is the help we've received from the community, from the businesses, from the Woking Borough Council, from individual members of the public is definitely a big part of it. I think another is my team, who have just been astonishing. Everybody's working long hours, doing roles that they would not normally do, like lugging mattresses around and trying to make beds. And I guess on a client-related thing, we currently have 3 of our most entrenched rough sleepers who have been in from day one, and 9 weeks on, they're still in with us and still managing. And we really hope we'll be able to take this opportunity to carry on working with them post-COVID.
It's a fantastic call out, and we do have to remember that there have been so many organisations that have come forward to support, and of course we are really thankful for your support, from food donations, bread, milk, all the way through to obviously financial contributions. And a reminder once again, if you would like to donate, all information can be found on our website, yorkroadproject.org.uk. Before we delve then into the next question, let's have a look at some of the comments here. Jana's been in touch and said, what made Cath go into homelessness?
Well, that's a bit odd, because actually I'm a qualified riding instructor. I grew up on a farm so I could ride, and ended up at a yard, teaching people how to ride. It's very cold, it's very long hours, and there's not a lot of money in it. And what happened was I moved from Dorset to Surrey, and I started just working at the outreach team as an outreach worker. I'd done some work previously working with other marginalised groups, and I loved it. I think the thing about people who are experiencing homelessness is you see them at their rawest. They may be shouting at me, but they're not shouting at me. They're shouting about the situation, and they feel safe to shout at you because they know you're still going to be there. As an outreach worker, I loved being up at the crack of dawn, traipsing through the mud in the woods, etc., and being able to follow and support somebody all the way through, or right the way through to you give them the keys to their property. And still some of the best times in my life, in the whole team's lives, are when people come back and say, you know, thank you so much. And it can be the most soul destroying, because some days you do get you have to deal with a lot of emotion, but generally I just love it.
It is, you know, it's an extraordinary environment to be in, because people are very, very grateful for the support that they get. But also, you know, we do have to remember, you know, there are underlying things that also the staff are working with these clients on, and that is just another great thing, is that, you know, 1 minute you could be screamed at in the face, and the next minute actually you could be that individual's kind of best buddy, right? You know, teaching them life skills and actually getting them through what is a challenging time for them. It is just a fantastic and a very rewarding job, most definitely. So the fact is, obviously, overnight, York Road Project doubled the amount of clients staying with them in their care. So the question that came in was, how do you plan, or even begin to plan, for an immediate increase?
There was very little planning. I think what I want to make very clear is that we doubled our bed spaces. So normally we have 31 beds. That includes our move-ons. And we only have 11 beds in the night shelter, and we've gone up to now 62 bed spaces, including our 20 in the move-on. So we've got an additional 42 beds. We can actually squeeze in a couple more if we have couples. So that does not mean that we've got 42 people normally on the streets of Woking, but what we saw was an unexpected, and this is reflected nationally, second wave of people presenting as homeless. And these were the average Joes, I guess. These were the people whose relationship broke down due to COVID stresses in the family. These were the people who were self-employed and in maybe slightly tenuous living arrangements, whose work dried up. These were the people who were, say, sofa surfing with friends, and there was an older person or a child in the house, and the homeowner said, you know, we don't want to take the risk. So that's where 50% of our numbers have come from. And that's a very different cohort for us to work from. So in terms of planning, there was none. The government made a decision and we had to follow it. None of it would have been possible without Woking Borough Council. We started off in the HG Wells Centre. They then arranged for us to take over the Woking Hotel next door. We ran out of beds really fast. Woking Borough Council built pods in the conference centre, which are lovely. Everything's got, you know, it's all got kettles and TVs, etc. in. We had additional funding very quickly released from Crisis, from the Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner. We wouldn't have been able to staff it without additional staff overnight, particularly. And so I would like to say I sat down and wrote a business plan. No, I didn't. We just did. As an organisation, we are really good at getting stuff done. And so people will ask us to do something, and if possible, and obviously we had to in this, we just delivered the service because we had to. We had to get these people off of the streets, out of danger, and in somewhere safe. It's only sort of a few days later I sat down and thought, oh my word, I better write a risk assessment, which took me an entire day to write a risk assessment for a building, or two buildings we're using, which is not designed for us, which nobody seemed to know to start with what was the code for the fire panel, etc. So it's been a little bit backward than an organisation would normally do it. You'd normally do those things first, and then you would move in somewhere. But we didn't have a choice. But it's been really, really good, and I'm really proud that what we've achieved in such a short time.
Amazing. It is incredible. It's a very reactive situation to be in, but one that has been done with so much dignity and so much pride as well, which has been absolutely fantastic. to witness such a hands-on approach from the whole team. So somebody's been in touch and said, noticing on your website, you've asked people now not to donate specific items which are commonly needed by your road project. Have your needs changed at the moment? And also, what is it that you are looking for from the people in the community?
Yeah, so for a while we had to say no to any donations, and that was predominantly due to storage space. We had so much coming in at once. We have very little storage space at HG Wells that is secure, so we just couldn't manage it. And particularly with the amount of food we were getting from the businesses when they shut down, they emptied all their freezers with us, which was fantastic. And HG Wells has got big walk-in freezers, so we could manage that. We're now at a point where what we're saying is, yes to some donations, but could we be specific? We cannot take any more clothing because we have lots. But what we're particularly looking for is stuff that helps in this weather. It's gone incredibly hot, and looking at the forecast earlier, there is not a lot of rain forecasted. So please, if you can, help us with bottles of water, just the small bottles that people can carry around, with sunscreen. We go in the summer in this weather, we slap it on the clients at a 2 meter distance, or we stand, we instruct them to put it on, and sort of things like that, and fruit, because we also find that when it's warm, we can get more fruit inside our clients. So any fruit that you've got, please bring in.
There we go. So if you're feeling fruity, if you've got some fresh vegetables as well, we like to ensure that the clients are, of course, fit and healthy. Somebody's been in touch just now, Cath, and I think it's quite a relevant question. So obviously COVID-19 was a worry for many people that were in specific shielding groups, and people potentially in our care that were our clients were amongst those shielding groups. Would you be able to talk a little bit about that and why that is the case in terms of our clients?
Yeah, so quite a few of our clients will have underlying health conditions, and contrary to what everybody thinks, not all of our clients are massive heroin users or something. But because of the lifestyle, if you want to call it that, the forced lifestyle, I think is a better term, of having to live out in the damp and the cold, and we've had a very wet winter, quite often some serious chest infection type conditions can occur. There is a high prevalence also of smokers amongst our client group, so that exacerbates. So we do deal with a lot of people with COPD, quite a few people with asthma type conditions. So we have had one client who's in the shielding group, and what we do is when we're around him, we mask up, etc. We would encourage him also to protect himself, but of course we're not enforcement. We can't stop him going out if he want to. We have other people in the at-risk group, including staff, and so we've had to put different measures in place there. And we did have one of our move-on houses go into self-isolation for a week. So during that week, which is quite early on, we delivered all of their food, and also went to the chemist and picked up any prescriptions and stuff like that. So that was another aspect that we had to deal with. And right at the beginning, we had to sit with each client and identify health problems. Fortunately, touching wood, we have not had any case of COVID amongst either the staff team or the client group, nobody with symptoms or anything, which I think is quite remarkable considering how many people we've got. And that was a big worry. The staff team went on we did a staggered rota and reduced hours, because the worry is if one of us got it, it could take the whole team out, and it's quite a sort of specialist job. So it's not that you could bring in people all of a sudden to work with our client group.
Amazing. No, thank you. Thank you very much for getting that question in there. Personal question there. Do you produce honey from your bees? I
do indeed. And I don't even like honey. The only time I have honey is if I've got a cold, when I have honey and lemon in water. No, it's too sweet. It's too sweet. And I just give it away. I don't even bother with the hassle of selling stuff. So Stephen, you won't know, but in the winter, when we get to the end of the summer, when the honey's harvest, everybody at work ends up getting honey and candles. I quite like making the candles.
The candles are very, very nice. I've got mine on my desk at work. Not burned just yet, But and Molly has just said, oh, please send this way, and somebody said that they will happily buy some from you, so there you go. Maybe a fundraising idea.
Yeah.
One member of the community recently took on the 2.6 challenge. Thank you for watching this evening. I know you're watching. Huge thanks to you. Obviously, I know that challenge is now over. However, obviously, thank you for selling jam. That was amazing. And it's great to see these kind of little initiatives come forward. Let's have a look then at some of the people that have made some donations. I mean, absolutely incredible things that we've needed coming in. We have branded you our heroes, most definitely heroes throughout this situation. And Cath, one family in particular at the bottom right, they're in quite frequently, aren't they?
They're fantastic. And you know, this picture shows a very small selection of people that support us. And, you know, we have donations most days. Well, there's Kai on that one. The Aslam family that you showed on the previous screen, they come in every single month without fail. They have been doing that for a very, very long time, pre-COVID. And as you can see, there's a very little person in that picture. And believe me, she carries stuff in as well. And they always think of the slightly odd things to donate, which is fantastic, because they're the things we don't even contemplate. And that is the cooking oil, the salt, the domestos, as we can see there. And it's just fantastic that people think about us and not just during the hard times, but also all the way through.
Most definitely. Thank you so much if you have made any form of contribution. We are continually updating our wish list on Amazon, and of course the information that we have on our website. So please do go and check it out, yorkroadproject.org.uk. Right, now we've got another question in. We've all seen the news surrounding funding for potential new site for York Road Project in the near future. What's all this about, and how are plans coming along?
Right. So yeah, we are, thanks to Woking Borough Council, they are funding purpose-built premises in Church Street West, I think, yes. And it's going to incorporate an awful lot of our services into one premises. It's already been delayed because of Brexit, but I think the understanding is that COVID is not likely to hold us up. So at the earliest, it will be open 2022, hopefully at the beginning of that year. We will still be keeping some of our move-on properties, because we need houses where it's more like living in the community. And what we don't want to do is turn into just an enormous hostel. The focus will remain on Woking people. One of the things we don't do now is we don't import rough sleepers. So if somebody calls us now from even any of the other Surrey boroughs, bar Waverley, who we do a little bit of work with, so if someone calls us from Surrey Heath or Guildford or even further afield and says, have you got a bed? Even if we've got 3 beds, we will say no. Because one of the issues is if you have all your services in one area and then somebody comes into the area and that's where all the support is, it's very difficult to sort of move people into accommodation, because they don't have a local housing connection, and all move on accommodations based on local housing connection. Sounds harsh, but we have to sort of really respect that we're funded by Woking people, and we want to support Woking people.
Most definitely. And obviously you see the hashtag up at the top there, proud to be local. The work that we're doing is looking after individuals in the local area. And of course, once again, if you would like to support the cause, then you can head over to the website yorkroadproject.org.uk. Another part of the question there was with regards to the potential new site. What's the biggest change that this will instigate, other than the change in open facilities that we already have at the moment?
The biggest change will be able to open 24/7, and I appreciate it's a bit odd at the moment because of COVID. We are opening 24/7, but normally when we win the night shelter and we've got the day centre, we can't open them at the same time because we don't have enough staff. So what we'll be able to do is make it more. We will still have direct access beds where you can bang on the door, and if we've got a bed, you can have it. But it will be, you won't be asked to leave at 9 o'clock in the morning, so we can shut that building. So we're going to create much more of a home environment as much as emergency accommodation can be. And there'll be a whole focus on when the client's with us, once they're out of the direct access beds and they're into one of the other rooms, which are longer term, it'll be in 3-bed flats. So they will immediately learn about living communally in a small group, as you and I would if we were private renting. So it will allow us to do an awful lot more from the site and use the staff better.
Amazing, thank you very much. And it's like a dress rehearsal then, really, what's going on at the moment, albeit in a very different setting.
I would hope it'd be much more planned.
Most definitely, yes. For those that have just tuned in, obviously we are talking at the moment through all sorts of things. We spoke a little bit about COVID-19, and we'll have a little bit of a recap at the end. But if you didn't know, York Road Project's normal facilities are closed, and we are operating a 24/7 operation in HG Wells. Somebody's just asked if, Cath, you could give them a little bit of an overview what that operation looks like, kind of just a quick whistle-stop tour, if you may.
Yeah, so the entrance is through actually HG Wells entrance, so that's our sort of reception area, and all we've got in the actual HG Wells side is we've got the pods, and people who stay in the pods, we call them podlings. So they're the ones that are staying in one of these sort of really emergency beds. If you come in late, they'll be filled. And then we can go through from HG Wells, through the back entrances and up and down stairs and around the corners into Woking Hotel. And we've got 24 bedrooms, some of which are double for couples. And that's en suite, like a hotel room. It's I guess it's a budget hotel, but it's all very lovely with plush duvets and things. We can manage dogs. And so we've got 4, I think, dogs in at the moment, which could be a bit fun. So we're feeding dogs as well. And we're now beginning to manage to do a bit of one-to-one work with the staff. So they're sitting down doing support work and looking towards the future. What do we do? What's the shape? Is it all going to take? And a lot of this does depend on government and the guidance coming out of what are the plans for the future, particularly around funding. So it looks, I guess, a bit chaotic maybe if you walk in, particularly as there are feet on the ground for you to stand on, so 2-meter rule and hand sanitizer. But also if you walk through into, I have no idea what the room's called, but you've still got the bar area. Unfortunately, they have locked all the alcohol away.
It would have been very, very nice, I'm sure, to have a few little drinky poos, but yeah, it's definitely been a very busy time indeed. So yeah, that was in relation to Anna's question on Twitch. Thank you very much for reaching out there. Now, obviously, thank you to all of the funders through this COVID-19. We've got Woking Borough Council, the Surrey Police Crime Commissioner, David Munro and the team, Crisis, and the Surrey Community Foundation. And that leads us very nicely onto the next question surrounding the funders. What are the relationships like with them? And the second part of that question, if you may, is how do you work with funders? Because obviously at that pace and at that speed, you must have had to deal with things quite quickly and understand what you needed quite quickly. So talk us through that as well. Thank you.
Regarding, in the short term, in terms of COVID, very quickly, we sort of convened a quick meeting with the trustees of York Road Project, and the decision was taken. Don't worry about the cost. We just need to get this done. And so, because there was quite a lot of costs initially, so that was a decision. Just use the reserves. We'll just do it. However, there have been some very responsive funders, for instance, Crisis, Community Foundation for Surrey, and the Police and Crime Commissioner in Surrey, who very quickly got up emergency funds, and so you could apply. Normally, applying for funds is quite a painful process. Sometimes the paperwork takes longer than actually delivering the service. But what they did was, it was a 1-page on each of those. Literally fill in a page, have a quick conversation, pick up the phone, quick conversation, and they were just, as long as we could prove that's what we needed and what we're using it for, we were given the money. So that was great. In terms of general our relationship with funders. We have very positive relationships. One of the strengths, or another strength I think York Road Project has, is we deliver. We would never negotiate a contract that we cannot make good on the terms of it. And we're quite realistic. What I do say, though, is we deliver most of the time more than what the contract states. And a really good example is, so quite often people will find needles, it's say in the car parks in Woking. We're not funded to do that. My outreach team, that's not what their funding's for. However, because we've got the equipment, we will go out and pick up those needles. Those needles may have nothing to do with our clients whatsoever. And nobody's saying so, but it's just easier and more helpful for us to go and do it. We always go a bit above and beyond in terms of moving people on. We don't have specific funding to follow those people and support once they have left our organisation. However, what we know is that you place somebody in their own accommodation and just abandon them after they've been with us for, say, 4 or 5 years, they're going to be coming back around really quickly because of the isolation and not having a support network. So we will continue to support unofficially and help them with setting up the direct debits, where the nearest bus route is to get into town, make sure the doctors are changed, how to do whatever, how to work a cooker again for the first time in a few years. So, I think funders respect us for that. And, so we do really have good relationships, particularly with those that like us to focus on a local area. Some of the bigger funders, maybe not so much because we're so niche in our area.
Amazing, thank you. And just to clarify there, those that we're saying thank you to Cath this evening are Woking Borough Council, the Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, Crisis, Surrey Community Foundation, all of the local businesses that have stepped forward to support us, faith groups. We really appreciate the support and love that you've shown us. And of course, the members of community that have stepped forward time and time again to support us. And we'll have a look just at some of the other things that people have kindly donated to us. So Beanies Masato, thank you so much for donating what was a very, very cold day. It seems like the weather has changed dramatically over the last few weeks, but on a specific cold day, you donated lots of soups to us. So thank you very much to you there. And we've got one come through here, some jeans, again, very popular sizes, 30 and 32 inch, definitely not my size, but thank you so much, whoever donated those. And again, just to clarify, the donation link is on our website, but a huge thank you to everybody in the community for stepping forward. We are most definitely proud to be local. That is what we're saying here this evening.